across the floor. Footsteps echo, then no more. Cold hands reach where light won't stay, calling you to come and play. Dancing shadows spinning fast, fear and laughter they will clash. Beat of terror, pulse of night. Darkness sings but feels alive. Eyes that follow from the wall, silent voices start to call. Heartbeat racing with the drums. You can run, but still they come. Dancing shadows spinning fast, fear and laughter they will clash. Beat of terror, pulse of night. Darkness sings but feels alive. Eyes that follow from the wall, silent voices start to call. Heartbeat racing with the drums. You can run, but still they come.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining. You'll see that we have all up here and disappeared. But now we're all here, and now you're still muted. I asked you to unmute, though. I can't hear you.
That's that now. That was weird, that.
No.
Put me down. Put me up the top.
Yeah,
That was weird, that.
That's funny.
It was weird. Something come up. I think it's maybe the first time because we're using this computer. We've never went live with this computer before because it's new. So
Yeah.
I think that's what it's doing. So, everybody, we've got a fantastic guest tonight. Welcome. I hope everybody's having a cosy night in because it's absolutely wild outside. Obviously, New York State or Sabrina is it's lovely weather, but here in Scotland and where Paul is in England, it's like crazy, mad, wet weather that's coming in, you know. But oh, who's that? Cow? Is that? What's that?
Cowabunga.
Everyone.
Cowabunga moves.
Hello.
I couldn't read that. I need to go to Specsavers, I think. But honestly, Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I mean, I've been really looking forward to this because Sabrina, I wanted to do this with Sabrina because she's got a list of questions to ask you. So I'm going to hand you over to Sabrina. So Sabrina, off you go.
Well, thank you very much for that. And yeah. So we're going to have an awesome conversation about hypnotherapy, but also before that, Paul, I'm really curious. Would you mind to share, just for those who maybe haven't heard about you, how you first discovered hypnotherapy and what your story is behind this?
Oh, of course, absolutely. Well, I have always had a fascination with hypnosis and particularly hypnotherapy ever since seeing the television programs like The Hypnotic World of Paul McKenna, which was more stage-based. Yeah. But then I was always interested in knowing what the experience of hypnosis felt like. So one Christmas, my parents got me sensational snooker because I used to play snooker. I still do a little bit, and I listened to it. It was very relaxing, certainly improved my game. And the joke I often say at my talks is if anybody plays snooker with me now, they'll realize I haven't listened to the tape for a very long time because you need to keep on top of all these things. But I then used it for some exam confidence. That was really good. Again, some Paul McKenna cassettes. But I really got into using NLP and hypnotherapy. It was, first of all, I wanted to be a nightclub DJ, and I did have some success in a few local bars. My dream was to play at Cafe de Mar. I mean, why not dream big? But I was always held back with the fear of rejection. So I got the book Paul McKenna, Change Your Life in 7 Days, and it gave me a lot more confidence. I started approaching a lot more places. But then my dad became quite unwell with cancer and eventually passed away in the end. But he was using a lot of self-hypnosis CDs to help him, and he actually managed to get some movement back, which, because of where the cancer was, he was not able to move very well, and he started to get some movement back, but it was a blood clot that got him in the end. But throughout the whole process, he was very positive. He enjoyed life, and I thought to myself from that moment onwards, after going through that, although I loved music and I still love music, and the nightclub DJing would have been a lot of fun, I really wanted to do something that was going to give people happiness long term, rather than just happiness for a night, because everybody has that usual "thank God it's Friday" saying, and then you enjoy the weekend, and it's back to Monday morning. So if you can give happiness and allow people to move from their stuck state to desired state they want to be in, that's what really sort of created the passion for me. I started off doing some NLP, then I did some hypnotherapy. Part of the hypnotherapy was past life regressions, and I used to do a lot of paranormal investigation at one time in my life, and it was during one of the paranormal investigations that I was on. Because if you've done paranormal investigations, you will know that there's an awful lot of waiting around with nothing much happening. So I asked the organizer, can I do some past life regressions with people? And I was told, yeah, of course you can. Had a bit of an audience. And then my good friend Lynn was watching, and she booked me for some events, and it kind of sort of snowballed from that moment, really. So that's how I got into the hypnotherapy and past life regression.
Wow. That's an incredible story, and I'm so sorry to hear what you've gone through with your father. That had to have been a challenging time, but
yeah, and I think as well, the hypnotherapy helped me through that challenging time as well. Of course, with bereavement, it doesn't take the bereavement away like that, but it gives you things to focus on. And learning NLP and hypnotherapy at the time really helped me to focus on something. So I'm very grateful to the NLP and hypnotherapy.
I will say Sabrina helped me, because actually my mum passed away 2 years ago. Well, nearly 2 years ago. She actually had cancer, and it was a blood clot that killed her. And I was really bad, but Sabrina's really helped me with overcoming that, and she's also helping me with my health too. So I'm pain management too. So I think hypnotism is fantastic. I would like to find out who I was in another life. That would be interesting.
Yeah, we'll sort that out sometime.
Yeah, we need to do that.
So I know a lot of people in here are probably wondering a little bit more about NLP and what it is. For me, because I know that there's also different teachers that teach it differently, and you really want to make sure that you dig in and do your research in terms of finding the best NLP course. For me, it was more of an experience of not just learning a language, but a way of life, because of everything that they teach you in terms of self-awareness, going through it and getting in tune with your emotions. What was your experience with it?
Well, I looked at different courses, and the one that intuitively I went for was an Opta. My trainer in NLP was Kim Phillips, and she was a fantastic trainer. Quite a long training process as well, so it'd be a weekend once a month for 8 weeks, rather than just the weekend ones. So the week ones you go for. So it was like you learnt it slowly, and Kim is also quite spiritual in her teaching of NLP, which is something that I was drawn to, because when you have your certificate in NLP, it's actually got written the art and science of neuro-linguistic programming, and the art and science is meant for that 50% of it is the actual what you're taught. The other 50% is your artistic interpretation of what you've learned in NLP. So you have the teachers that are more with NLP, very much almost like secular. It's just very sort of black and white, not spiritual. We don't add any spiritual stuff to it at all. Then you have the ones which do involve a lot more spirituality. And I used to go to the NLP conference in London fairly regularly at one point, and I had a bit of not a certificate, but I did a workshop with, not teaching it, but I was part of the audience for Robert Dilts, who was right there, right at the beginning. So having his knowledge, and he's very spiritual as well. He adds a lot of 5 rhythm dance into his NLP now, so it's great. So I think if you are going to learn NLP and you want to take it seriously, certainly do your research and know a little bit about the teacher. And I guess there's some people thinking NLP, what's it stand for? It's often a question I get asked. I know you know, Sabrina, but it's
I don't
Neuro
have a clue.
Linguistic programming. So I'd like to think of it as not just the brain neuro, but you have your whole neurological system that runs through you. Then we have your language that you use to yourself and others, and how you talk to yourself as well, and how you talk to others. And it takes on that we run programs, because it's easier just to run a load of programs. And the human mind is almost like a computer program, much more better than a computer program, but that you can reprogram yourself through neurolinguistic program. That's my interpretation, again, because NLP is both an art and a science. If you ask 10 different NLP practitioners, master practitioners, you'll probably get 10 different answers, but that's the answer I like to give.
Yeah. See, it's interesting. The person that I found when I came across NLP was Arthur Babelis. And he is who I've taken the class with now 3 times. So I haven't experienced another teacher, but that's the thing about NLP. There is so much for you to learn about it that each time you take the class, you pick something up different every single time. So it's very extensive for everybody looking to learn this, but yeah.
And I highly recommend buying books and reading different books of what people say about NLP, because some NLP master practitioner, NLP coach, they will word stuff in such a way that it will suddenly go, that makes so much more sense to me than how somebody else has said it as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Thank you for explaining that.
It's really fascinating. I mean, I've always wondered when you get this face, Sabina, because obviously you've been doing this for a long time, because you also do the weight loss program that you're doing now, which has helped with me, because I've not had like a Coca-Cola for about 2 months. I've just been drinking water, and it's weird because I used to love like sweet things. I was a big sweetaholic, right? I would get into a sweet shop and buy everything, but now it's weird. It's like there's something within me. It's like a switch that's been flicked that I want it, but I'm not allowed it. It's weird. It's like something that's in me. And it was like today, for instance, when I went to the shop, I thought, oh, well, I better know, because there was that a little voice. And, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a thing I've always wondered, right? And it's something that I've always wondered. I mean, is it possible, like, see how people are hypnotized? And you hear about people being like brainwashed and things like that. But could somebody be like hypnotized to forget who they are and be someone else?
Well, my interpretation of it, although again you hear different things, is that you can't get anybody to do something which is against their moral programming. If somebody wanted can change their personality completely, then I believe you can. I believe the brain is very much like wet clay and is always going to be wet clay, like plastic. So you can always constantly mold your brain and the neural pathways. But again, speaking, I have read some books that say otherwise. I don't personally go down that route, and it's something I've not even experimented in trying, because I wouldn't want to get anybody to do anything they wouldn't want to do. But
exactly.
You know, I have, because I've done stage hypnosis. Now, I've never been somebody who really wanted to take it up as a career, but I was told stage hypnosis by Dr. Raymond Roberts. It was taught very ethically, and I went along to it because people always asking me questions about stage hypnosis, and I thought to myself, I need to take a course in it so I can actually answer people. But there were certain things where there was someone who was Muslim, and because of their religion, I don't understand it properly, but it's saying to the bottom of the shoe is saying negative. And one of the suggestions. He was an incredibly fun person to be with, and very suggestible. But one of the suggestions was to take the shoe off, and it was a phone and answer it. And because that was against his moral code, he was just he was just sort of staring out and didn't follow suggestions. So, in my personal belief, you can't get anybody to do anything that you wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I've seen people in stage that jump about, think they're chickens and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do find it quite funny. Actually, I do find it quite funny. But I've always wondered that. I mean, you hear about governments. I mean, I'm a big believer. I listen to Coast to Coast AM and that, and you hear about people that have been taken and like projects, and they've been hypnotized like to be better soldiers. Because I bet you the government's done this. I bet you they've done it to make like a soldier less afraid, because it makes a better soldier. But then it's good. It's bringing up the morals, like you say, something that they don't want to do. You know.
Yeah, and I'll have to listen to some of these coast to coast, but if somebody is, because I have lightly heard of it, and I know it's got a huge amount of respect, the show, but the people that are soldiers have gone in to be a soldier, so they're kind of halfway there anyway to accept the suggestions. And if you're given an option to do something in a terrifying situation, it's something that I've never wanted to do, and to remove that fear, you're either going to go in with a fear or you're going to go in without it. You have to do some horrendous things as a soldier. I mean, it's part of the job, so I've got some good friends who are soldiers or have been soldiers, so I have the utmost respect. But there are times you have to do something that you've got to shoot someone or be shot yourself. That's the situation people are put in. So if you can numb that down, that's probably going to
I actually know soldiers that have been in battle and have actually got hypnotism to help them because of their PTSD. Because of what's happened, their friend died next to them and things like that. And they've actually, I had a conversation with them one night and they were telling me all about it. And the hypnotist actually walked them through what actually happened, because that person always blamed himself. He couldn't save his friend. He tried, but he couldn't. But he helped. And it's amazing how it works. It's the power of suggestion. And it's amazing how something like that works. I mean,
I think something important to point out with that too, and I'm sure Paul, you'll have something to add to this as well. But when you're walking people through something that's as traumatic as somebody being shot next to them or themselves being threatened death, it's very important to make sure that they're, in a sense, separating the emotion from the event when you're taking them past, because you don't want them to get too far into that state, but at the same time you want them to feel what they were feeling so that you are able to make that suggestion to change it. How have you handled those situations where you have somebody that you've taken them through a memory and they do, their heart starts racing, their breathing gets heavy, and they get back into that anxious state? Is there something you do?
Well, most of the time, particularly with something like that, I end up being very solution focused. Although I do go back and do regression therapy, I'm very much thinking towards the future. I think, like you say, it's good to experience some emotions but have a safety net. And I find giving people goals, something to look forward to. I know there's the guilt still, and you work through. And when people do come to me, they say, how do you help out someone who's going to do like this? And it's exactly the same answer Milton Erickson gave when Richard Bandler and John Grinder were doing modelling with him and asking him questions. His answer would be, I don't know, which doesn't sound that great, but he said, I'm always curious to find out. So what will work for one person might not work for another. But I find the most important thing within hypnosis is belief, the expectation, the conviction of someone. So you help to give someone the conviction of what they're going to do, and the expectation as well. So making sure they have that sort of expectation. And the way a hypnotherapist, NLP coach acts whilst they're in there, even if somebody's telling you a really difficult situation. If you start thinking, how on earth I'm going to sort this out, the client will pick up on that. So it's just allowing time. And I also work very intuitively as well, although I claim to have no psychic ability. I just kind of allow intuition to guide which way I'm taken during the session.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate that answer, because I've not had anybody actually get into such a bad state to where they get that reactive, but I have heard of it. So far I've been lucky, so to say. But sorry, what were you going to say?
I was actually going to ask Paul. Actually, see like past life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always wondered what do you actually do to take that person back? Like, say me, for instance, what would you actually do to take me back to when I was? Does that person actually tell you what it was like to be born? Does that person actually tell you what it was like on the other side?
Some do. Each person's different. For me, I mean, I've read books, and I'm only giving my personal experience about it. Some people have explained the life between lives very in detailed. Others don't, and quite often what people will say to me is that it's difficult to explain. You can't explain what they're experiencing in a physical term. And I make sure that I don't lead the client in this, because I have seen some YouTube videos, and again, I'm not saying I have the right way and they have the wrong way, but when somebody's in hypnosis, it's basically you've created a deep rapport with the person. So if you implant a suggestion, they like to take it on board. Now, if it's something in a regression, you have to be very careful. There's guiding a client and there's leading a client. And I have seen, so when I get to the life between lives, I ask what you're experiencing now. I have seen some people on YouTube that have said, now you now go into the room and you meet your guides. Tell me what your guides say, and they're planting that suggestion. So I make sure I completely remove all of that. There are similarities. I mean, most people, it feels very free. They're not too much aware of visuals, but there is some visuals that they're sort of aware of, and they feel very connected, but they can't really explain an awful lot about it. That's why I find the majority of people that come through to me. But one of the interesting things that I find is when somebody goes back, and some children that have had spontaneous past lives. So these are the children that talk about a possible life that they had experienced beforehand. Say about jumping through a hole or a funnel and they're in their next life. And it's surprising how many times that people that come to me privately, when it's time to go back and experience another life, they see themselves jumping down like a funnel into their next life. So that's really interesting that kids pick up on that, and a lot of the adults, not everyone, but a lot of them do.
See, that is so interesting what you say, because I've actually had a thing that's happened to me. Sabrina knows what I'm about to talk about, and I can remember when I was born, and it's weird, and it's always stuck with me. And it's always stuck with me, and it's weird because it starts off as this big tunnel of light, right? And I'm walking down it, but I'm not myself. There's like big tall people standing next to me, and I always wondered what they were. It makes me wonder if they were guides or they were angels or whatever they were. I don't know. I'll never know until I go back, I suppose. And then I'll wake up and it's like this room, and it's the hospital. It's the hospital. And then it's weird because it jumps forward. It's like jumps like 5 years. And
Interesting.
Then I'm about 5 years old. I can remember it, but I used to have a thing where I used to play with matchbox cars and bury them all over the garden. It was bad for that. There you go, Sabrina. And my dad was always digging them up. But it like jumps off. It's like I forgot about like when I was 5 till I was like born. It's like, where was that time?
That is interesting, and you're not the first person who's said they remember being born. Now, if you speak to some of them, I'm saying some of the neuroscientists because it's what tends to be in the mainstream. And they usually say, and I'm just saying I'm picking a handful of people, that early on you don't have the memories as a baby, and if you do a regression, if you have memories of a baby, it hasn't happened. It's a false memory. Now, I personally disagree with that, because there was an experiment, and I'll cut it right down because I don't know how squeamish people are, but an experiment where they got rats, they got rats to do run a maze, and they got the rats' brains. Once they'd learnt how to get through the maze, they slowly started removing portions of the brain, and they removed so much of it that in the end the rats had very poor physical movement, but they could still remember how to get through the maze. So it does ask the question, where exactly is memories stored within the body? And that's why I said at the beginning with the neuro-linguistic program, I don't just take it as the brain, but the whole neurological system, because you hear about a gut feeling, and it has been proven that there are cells within the stomach very similar. I mean, not exactly, it's not like a brain, but similar to a cat's brain. So you kind of have a cat's brain within your stomach. And again, there's some for the heart as well. So I believe there is some form of something in that when they sort of say, I have my gut feeling. And I rely on my gut feeling an awful lot. And I think that not always we're just getting the information from the brain.
I'm going to say that I shortened it right down there, what I can remember. I mean, I've told Sabrina what I can remember, and I can remember it to detail. Absolute detail. And I mean, to what the floor was like, to what the walls were like, to what the city in the distance was like with the waterfalls coming off it. And it's like, it's weird because just before I walked through that, I looked round and I could see everybody waving at me, and it was weird.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I was told in one of the talks I give about past lives, a lady, and you know, people that I talk about, I say that's really interesting. Can talk about that. So, you know, I never break any confidence with anybody. But there was one lady who claimed that she remembers being in the 1930s as a man, and she was involved in a car accident in the 1930s, and then the next thing she remembers is being in the hospital, you know, as a baby. And she said she was really annoyed. She said she remembered her thinking, oh no, I'm a baby. And again, there was quite a bit of a distance then before the other memories, but she certainly clearly remembers being a baby and saying she was fuming that she was a baby because she was a middle-aged man before that.
Yeah. Wow. See, that's sort of fascinating. I mean, I do the meditation. Sabrina gives me like meditation things, and I do that traveling to the Akasha records and things like that. But I do remember what everything was like, and it's weird because the people that were waving at me, they were all dressed differently, all different periods. It was weird.
That is weird.
And I can remember it. But then I remember being born. I remember the hospital was looked at. The hospital was knocked down 4 years after I was born. So I had no ways. I had the conversation with the doctor. He's actually retired now, and he's like, he just looked at me and says, "Yeah, that was inside because it was the green room with the red tiles and stuff like that." And it's weird because then it just stops, and then it's like it picks up. My memories start for 5 years old.
See, I think those are the sorts of accounts that are ideal, you know, for people to seriously look into. And you know, it might be, I don't know how many people, you know, these scientists who say that babies can't hold the memory like adults do, but I often wonder, I mean, I'm not dismissing what they say, but how many people have they actually interviewed and done that? And I think to really get anywhere near the truth, you get a lot of scientists that are skeptical, and I do like a lot of them, and I think they've contributed hugely to the field of science and the mind. But I think to really do something like, you know, I mean, one of the people, and again, I respect the guy, and he's really interesting. Chris French is very skeptical about past lives and past life regressions, but I think really what you need to do is you pick the one subject and you dedicate your life truly looking into that. And then by the end of your life, then what you feel about it. And I think that would be the best way to really any subject. Personally, people might disagree. That's all right.
I think what you're doing is amazing. And Sabrina, too, I mean, it's an amazing thing to do. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, I think what you are doing is amazing. Sabrina's helped me, but Sabrina, you've got other questions. I'll let you go ahead because I think I've all these questions here.
I do. I actually was reading through some of the comments that we have from some of the members that have joined, and Cowabunga, the one that you couldn't pronounce, she's saying, as someone who has night terrors, that she's looking forward to this. So I thought we'd actually ask Paul, is there anything that you would suggest for her in terms of how would you gently guide somebody who is experiencing night terrors like this?
Yeah, well, so yes, I mean, I'm sure she'll be okay with it, but I do know Cowabunga throughout the everything, and I will personally talk about the night terrors and things, but I think quite often for people that are experiencing night terrors, it's something that people feel stuck in certain areas of their life, and it's like replaying the tapes. It's hidden in there somewhere, and I think sometimes it's like unpeeling the layers of an onion to help out with the night terrors. And NLP is incredibly quick, but sometimes for certain things you sort of have to deal a bit more with it and try and get people to see the initial triggering event differently and getting people to rewrite that. I mean, one of the things that I've done with people to help get them from a stuck state and the belief to ethically change what they are is to really ask specific questions. And I've done this as an experiment sometimes as well. And I initially got the idea from Robert Dilts' book's Belief, and it just goes into, and you can choose it under any area, but how to rewrite traumatic time, and you can do it less traumatic times. So if you were having food and say someone had custard and apple crumble for their pudding, you'd ask them, how do you know? And they explain what's going through their mind, what they see, what they feel, what they taste, what they're experiencing using all the senses, and what they hear during that. So people actually have submodalities, which is the way you view something. So you get them to, and then you ask, what could have you had instead? So with a traumatic event, what could have happened instead of this? So we'll just go down the food ramp, but you can do it more traumatic stuff. So you would say, well, I could have had, instead ice cream. And then you say, how do you know you didn't have ice cream? When they say, well, I could see it this way. And you start mapping across the way they view what they did have with what they could have had, and then keep adding more and more convincers, saying and then you say to them, I want you to say that you had ice cream. And then you check in with them again where their beliefs are, until actually they start thinking, did I have ice cream? So you just start adding that on. So it's a good sort of demonstration. It's quite a long demonstration, but it is also quite amusing. If somebody is happy to go along.
Cultures, especially when it comes to the subconscious mind.
I think I wouldn't say so much with cultures are particularly that different. I find that the hypnosis that I do is for everybody, and I tend to find everybody's an individual, so I don't tend to put people so much in boxes. But I find quite often, I mean, there is slight subtle differences, which I'll come to in a moment. But I tend to find that quite often people have a lot of imposter syndrome for whatever work they're in. They don't believe in themselves enough. They tend to think, and that's why, like, some of the NLP patterns is very useful. They start sort of saying, well, I couldn't be successful because I don't come from a privileged background. You say, so everybody that's been successful has come from a privileged background. So I think it comes from every culture pretty much, as far as I know. If you're right back to the beginning, you had to hunt for food and you had to look out. So you had to be the hunter, not the hunted. So quite often we're on a high alert system. Now, modern living's taken all that, away, but certain other things lead into triggering anxiety. I think one of the big things I have noticed different, but I do believe, and I see there's definitely a shift happening, is from the people in the UK and around this area to America. And I find that a lot of the stuff I love reading, and I've also got a load of audio programs and things, and a lot in America, it's, you can do this. We're going to push you forward and cheer you if you want to start your own business. And I tend to find there's a lot of people in the UK that, fortunately, I surround myself with people who are very, very supportive with what I do. But there is a lot of, it's a big risk over in the UK. Do you want to do that? So many people have tried their own business and failed. So I do notice that difference. I think also in America, one of the other reasons is quite often you have to sort of fight more. Like, I think you don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't get sick pay or things like that. There's also the NHS. So I think you have to push yourself further forward in America. But I do definitely find that a lot of people in America, their friends seem to be, and family, more supportive than, do you really want to do that? So that's one of the slight differences.
Interesting. So in your experience, what do you think most people often discover about themselves through, we're going to go back to regression, not to skip around, but.
Do you mean past life regression or regression in this life?
Past life regression.
So you get those that come to me and they will say afterwards, wow, that's so real to me. That couldn't be anything else. And you get the others that say, that was interesting, I enjoyed that, but I'm not sure if that made it up or if it was a metaphor. But I find the information that is given to you helps to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Certainly one of the biggest things that I find with a lot of clients is that self-esteem improves after having a past life. There's more understanding of themselves. But to use one of the experiences, which I've talked about quite a few times, because obviously when people come to me, unless it's one that is done online, I always make an agreement. Unless you want me to talk about it, it will just remain between yourself and me. But one of the people that I hypnotized, they went back to being on the Titanic. Now, people will say to me, well, the trouble is with things like hypnosis with past life regression, everybody seems to go for an interest in life or someone who's famous, which
I was going to ask you about that.
Isn't actually the case. It gets picked up a lot more because someone who's had an interesting, compelling life or one that was famous is going to trigger the interest of the journalist. So you're going to, if you said, I think I was once Mary Queen of Scots, and you send that into a journalist as a press release, they'll probably pick up on it. They probably wouldn't. I'm not sure if they believe you or not, but they think, well, that's a really quirky, unusual story. Let's run with that. If you said, I used to clean the toilets in London in the Victorian era, it's not going to set pulses racing.
Yeah.
But to go back to the Titanic, the person, it was quite compelling because they did mention some things like where they were from began with an R, which was correct. Royce Trevor was where this person we did a bit of research found came from. She worked in engine room 3 as a man, and her last experience was drowning on the Titanic, stuck in engine room 3. She couldn't get out, or he couldn't get out in the regression, and the last breath was her experience of drowning as being someone else. But I always ask if somebody wishes to have healing from that. There was no healing work because some people find that just experiencing it as somebody else is the healing process in itself. And from experiencing that life as a fireman or stoker on the Titanic and drowning, she lost a fear of water. So she used to, if she had to wash her hair, she wouldn't be able to do it. She'd have to use the dry shampoo and only have the water going down on her chest. But after experiencing that, it lost a fear of water. So that's one of the big changes that have happened. But sometimes somebody's gone through a life and they've been a leader of a tribe, and they're, after experience that, their self-esteem improves. They become more confident in interacting with others. And there's certain things as well from lifetimes. I mean, one of the ones that again I could talk about was a lady who experienced a past life as a man, when this man was a business person and just focused on business and neglected his wife and his children. And it was later on in life, in this regression, when this particular person was going to pass over, he suddenly got this sensation of, I've wasted all these precious years with my wife, my family, and I won't be able to get that back. The money was good, but I won't be able to get those precious times. And in the excuse me, in the life that she was living then, she was not holding money and giving it away. She's incredibly successful now. And that comes from a lot of her own work. So I'm not saying, I did that and I changed that. It was her own determination, but it was certainly maybe a little seed that made her give her an aha moment. And just one more thing, other people have been in a life before. They've been a woman who was beaten by a husband, because there was a time when you could beat your wife with a stick, as long as it's no bigger than the thumb. And whenever this person would sort of say something, whack, get beaten. So in this life, they were holding back what they truly felt and would feel and felt. So by removing that and experiencing it, and I do a lot of healing sort of process, which can be different from each person. If you see my regressions on past life regressions with Paul Goddard, you see some of the process I do with feelings. Now, when I do a live regression on the internet, I'm aware that now I would never say the work that I do is for entertainment, but I realize that people are watching for interest. But at the end of the life, if someone needs to have that healing, I will sit with that person and go through the healing process. And sometimes that means that I sit in silence for a good minute. Now, it's not the most interesting thing for someone to watch at that time, but I feel I've taken someone through that experience, and I fully owe it to that person to give the full attention to the healing, not just a rush job. So to keep the viewers coming, watch him.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a good thing. You're healing people. See, I've always had a terrible fear of water. I don't know why. It's interesting because there's a bridge near me, and when I go on my walks, I phone Sabrina and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't want to walk across here. And it's an old Bailey bridge, one of those ones built by the army, the British Army. And the water's really black and deep, and I'm like, I mean, tractors and trucks drive over it every day, but I've just got that fear of the deep black. There's something within me. Something.
And incredibly, I mean, it could be related to a past life, and that can sometimes remove the fear very, very quickly. But if people want to experience something and help themselves through themselves, I wasn't taught this in NLP, but any course you do in NLP, because there's so much, you're scratching the surface of NLP. The best thing is to go and see other people, get the books on NLP, and really keep learning. But Joseph Wolpe, who was a psychologist, I think he might, I'm not sure if he's still, I think he's passed away now, but he did desensitization. So this is slightly slower than in NLP, which is called the fast phobia technique. But I find it very useful. Is if you're fearful of water and you don't like going to the bridge, you visualize, go into it first, what's the anxiety level? 10 being the worst anxiety you ever felt, 0 being no anxiety. So you then get to Joe's stuck at number 3. So if the fear of just visualizing it is a 3 or a less, then you can move on to a next stage, maybe getting a little closer to it, not going over it yet, but seeing it from a distance. However, if the visualization was over 3 just by visualizing, because some people can visualize something and it triggers off all the fear and the panic. If it's over 3, you withdraw. So maybe you view it as a black and white picture, because if you take the color out of something, it makes it less nerve-wracking for someone. So you just kind of slowly start desensitizing yourself. And it's okay to experience a bit of fear. I mean, people that say do things like skydiving, which is something that I would run a mile from. I'm frightened of that. I'm happy to remain frightened of it. But to jump out of a plane, you're going to experience a bit of stress and anxiety, and people find that fun. I don't know why, but you wouldn't be someone that would, probably rarely would, but I doubt you'd get many people that would go, yeah, I don't care, jump out. You part of the excitement is that
the
bit
wing
of
falls off or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm one of those crazy people. I wouldn't go up there and say I don't care. I think I'd be afraid of.
Well, I tell you, Sabrina, I would wait at the airport cafe on you. Don't you worry. I'll sat with a pair of binoculars. There was something I was going to ask you, Paul, actually. Have you ever had anybody, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, but have you ever had anybody that's had a UFO experience? Missing time?
I have had, so I can talk about it to an extent.
Yeah.
In fact, I won't talk about individually, but one of the people that did come to me has had a past life regression from me, Stella of Radical Cartoons, and she's open about her UFO experience. Her UFO experience is on, and I can't remember it, but she was involved in a alien podcast talking about her experience. Now, I won't go into what was the experience. So there wasn't really anything more than what she remembered. Again, when I do the UFO experience, you have to be aware that you can implant ideas. So you're very careful. With anything, when I do regression in this life, I say, it's very good at revealing hidden memories, hypnosis, but it's not a truth drug. So what comes out, it's up to you to take the decision. Did it happen or not? And I have to be absolutely honest with people with that. Only one person's kind of gone through to sort of semi-abduction experience. But most of the time, people have just remembered a little bit more, or potentially remembered a little bit more about the experience, got closer to the UFO, saw more details. But I make sure that, again, I don't implant the idea.
Yes.
And one of the great examples of this is in a book co-written, I've forgotten his name, it's, you forget names sometimes, but it's called The Art of Regression Therapy. And Roy Hunter, that's his name. Roy Hunter had an experience when he was a child living in America, very rural part, where he was stung by a scorpion. He was miles away. His parents and his family were miles away from any doctor. So instruction was given over the phone to help Roy with what he was experiencing. And that night, after being stung, he woke up in a tremendous amount of pain, and he stopped breathing. And he could feel himself rising up from the bed and saw an intensely bright white light. He was very fearful and called out in his mind to God, I'm too young to die. And in that, he felt himself fall back down onto the bed and he could breathe again. Now, Roy was talking about this experience with a hypnotist, and the hypnotist thought, you might have some suppressed memories there. So this is where I say guide and never lead. The hypnotist took Roy back to that very night. He couldn't breathe. He felt himself rising up. He saw the intensely bright white light, and the hypnotist then says, go through the UFO, go through the light and let me know if there's a UFO there. implanting that idea, and then even saying further things. Do you see grey beings with big black slanty eyes? Are you taken aboard the craft? So again, you have to be so careful what we use. So when I do it, I just say, allowing people to go back in their memory, remembering everything that had happened, and I just tell people to move forward and move back. And you have to be careful. You don't ever say, "Were you taken aboard the craft?" because you're implanting that idea.
Yeah.
And Roy did have another regression by a different hypnotherapist who was doing guiding rather than leading. Just asked him to go forward.
Yeah.
Now, Roy, in that experience, met the angel of death. He says even then he can't say whether it really did happen or it didn't, but you're lessening the possibility of somebody getting a false memory if you just ask people to go forward and back rather than implanting ideas like that one hypnotist did.
Oh, that's awful. I feel so bad that he had to go through that too.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say. I've watched videos on YouTube and things like that where hypnotists are taking people that have been abducted and they're like, now do you see the spaceship? I want you to walk into the spaceship. Now that I'm thinking about it, what you're saying, they're planting the memory.
Yes, exactly. Just ask the person to go forward and back in time, and that's all you do. You put them into a nice deep level of hypnosis, but never ask a certain question. So that's when I do the life between lives. I just say, what are you experiencing now? Not now you meet your guides, because you're presupposing that someone is going to, and because that deep level of rapport has happened to go into hypnosis, then the person can be led. Being led, certain things you planting positive suggestions is fine, but if you're coming up with somebody's experience, you never do that.
Right. Wow, I'm glad that you explained some of that so that people know what to look out for as well. That's always helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do see it on YouTube, and I must admit, for everyone that's led or done something, I've seen many other brilliant hypnotherapists on YouTube that I learn from, because I don't think you should ever think to yourself, I know everything, I don't need to learn more. I'm always going through books, I'm watching other people's videos, and quite often I think, I like what they did there, I wouldn't have thought of that. So you can add it in yourself and slightly adapt it to make it more of yourself, what you would do, rather than just copying someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It kind of actually reminds me of those courses that they offer on Udemy, where they give you a certification for hypnotherapy, but you're going through one specific element of hypnotherapy for a couple of days or whatever it is. And when I found out that they were actually doing that, I was like, oh my gosh, it's no wonder some of these practitioners don't fully understand all of the aspects of it, because they've gone through courses like that. And
I think to me there is some room for a course like that, but it would be, I'm not sure if I want to do hypnosis or not. I'd like to just dabble. If it's particularly cheap, do you like it? But you should never, in my view, set yourself up as a clinical hypnotist for just like I find a lot of that, particularly you get some online courses as well, and basically you're told an induction, all the different inductions, you're told an induction of what you can do, and you're then sort of given a load of scripts just to read out, and then transtermination where you bring somebody out, and that's literally it. You could learn exactly the same thing from a self-hypnosis book and probably get more information about hypnosis in those. So I'd say to people, if you are interested in that, use it as, do I want to take this further? But certainly don't have it as, I'm set up now. That's in my personal view anyway.
I've recommended the same thing. I'm siding with you on that.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about your paranormal experience and what it intrigued you to getting into that?
Well, I think, I've had paranormal experiences, but it was first off from buying basically the child's book of ghost hunting. The sorts of ones that you used to get, and they would say it was very Harry Price type of investigations at that point. pencil, paper, tape recorders, those sorts of things. But I was fascinated. I'd have to get up and unplug myself, but I got like books as a great one that I've got on ghost hunting. But I was always interested in the paranormal. I mean, I loved the television program Strange But True. I mean, I remember I used to be excited every single Friday that would be on. You know, it was a fantastic program. And then it was later on, like the TV programs you've got, and I thought, well, maybe I could go out and experience and see what it's actually like. So that's how I got into it. And you know, you need a lot of patience when you're doing paranormal investigations, but you know, when you do get something, it's incredibly exciting. I mean, I do occasionally go out and do the odd one now, but it's sort of very rare. I mean, when I started doing paranormal investigations, paranormal of the ghost hunting side of things, or paranormal investigation, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a specific word. I'm happy with using ghost hunt. I know some people saying don't use the word ghost hunt, but I use the word ghost hunt. But you know, I enjoy going out, but it was, the venue would be, oh, that'd be interesting. Let us know what you get. Now it's so expensive to do it. You know, you can you can pay huge amounts of money to be at a venue, and you can't guarantee you're going to experience anything. So I kind of enjoy doing it. I do the occasional one because I find it interesting, but I tend to sort of think now, well, I've done that. I've experienced things which have convinced me strange stuff happens, definitely. Yeah. But I kind of think I'd rather go out for a nice meal and spend that money and have a bottle of wine than you know, do the personally.
It is ridiculous, the price that you paid. I mean, I can remember when ghost hunting was just a thing when it first began. It was really cheap. Really cheap to buy the equipment, and now it's ridiculous. REM pods like teddy bears are like £200 and stuff like that. Ever since I've opened up as a medium more, because I'm a medium, I don't need to go and look for ghosts now. They find me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you get luckily people that have haunted homes that you know are happy for you to go and take a look at and everything like that. I mean, I know people are incredibly excited about paranormal investigations, and I'm really pleased. But I think because I've done it for so long, you know, I did it from the early 2000s to about, I think 2012 was what I was doing the investigation. It was still relatively cheap at that stage to do it. It was either throw us at £5 each, or you know, just come along. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, I guess, you know, I understand it, particularly in like the hospitality industry. Restaurants, pubs are closing down, so they've got to find another way of making money. But you know, I kind of feel, you know, do I want to pay £100, or would I rather pay less than that and enjoy a nice meal out with some friends? You know, that's the way I think about it personally.
Just go to the graveyard and sit down.
You might get some people in, because there's one not far away from myself. You might see some people drinking cans of cider in there, but
the only spirits is cider, you know.
Yeah.
I have to ask, what's the crazy experience that you've had with the paranormal?
Oh God, I'm going to say 3 experiences here because it's hard to distinguish. The most frightening one, but then I was happy to carry it afterwards. I was in Woodchester Mansion, which is quite local to me.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's up on my YouTube channel, where we were all accounted for. Every single person was in the kitchen area, and there was just me and someone else in the corridor. And we could just about in the dim lights make out people within the kitchen area. And a scream, a really quite piercing, what seemed like a female scream, suddenly came out. I don't know what happened. I lost the plot at that moment and yelled out, set the lady next to me off. We ran into the kitchen area of Woodchester Mansion. We're screaming. That sets everybody off. Absolutely hilarious. Camera flying around everywhere. But that was the one time I can remember that I really got quite frightened for a moment. But then I calmed myself down and I was able to do the paranormal investigation. I mean, there's been other times where I frightened myself, but sometimes that's you walk into the toilets and suddenly see a reflection of yourself that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
That's very terrifying at that moment. One of the most, I can't see it being anything else, was when I was in Age Concern Shop, and people saying, "Oh, you're in an investigation area. People are primed to see something." We were there, and the only things we were told beforehand is that the staff didn't like going down into the cellar. And I thought, it's a cellar, it's dark, that's why people are. So I was really expecting nothing. We were packing up at the end of the night, and I thought, well, that was a really quiet one. But then from a blocked off corridor, because the Age Concern Shop goes through to the estate agents. I don't know what it does now, but it did then. And I saw a lady come out in what I would describe as like tweedy country dress. So it could be anything from the 1930s through to today. So it's kind of that almost timeless dress. She released the catch on the fire door and then walked off down the corridor, which was locked and bolted anyway. Now, the very first thing I did was convert it into reality. And I thought, oh, someone's just locking up. And I thought, hang on, who could be locking up? And it was for a couple of seconds I saw this person, maybe about 3 seconds, and it was like I was looking at anybody else. It was, to me, in that moment, just the person. And that was quite a surprising one. It wasn't catching something from the corner, or did I see something? Like, I know what I saw in that moment. I said 3. I think one of the most interesting ones fairly recently that happened to me was Kate Ray, and she's a lady, a fascinating lady. She does the fairy and the fae stuff. Does a lot of research. I did a past life regression with her. Now, her home has paranormal activity, and during the live, you suddenly hear a female voice come over. Now, both of us were by ourselves at the time, so it was nobody near us. It kind of sounds like Tell Her. I have got that up on my past life regression channel, just a little bit of it. And I did put the words Tell Her, but I did do a press release. And for it, I kind of put in what I think it said, just, because I needed to create as interesting press relief as possible. I would usually probably just stick up unexplained EVP or unexplained voice, because it could be a load of different things. I mean, the very first time... Sorry, Carol.
Is that your channel, Paul Goddard? Because I've shared, it's 33,000 subscribers you've got, because I've just shared it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's not the one. That's my random channel. So it's Past Life. But you can share that one because that is still my stuff. So thank you for sharing that. The one which has got the Past Life Regressions on it is Past Life Regressions with Paul Goddard. I wish my Past Life Regressions with Paul Goddard had that many subscribers. But I put a load of other random things on the Paul Goddard one. So it's music, and I've got a DJ mix by the late great Jose Bazella on the Paul Goddard one. So that's what's caused a lot of interest in a lot of things and different videos I put on. So Past Life Regression with Paul Goddard is the Past Life one.
Yeah,
it's there. If you want to stick it up,
it's in the description too.
Yeah. So there you go. You've got quite a few channels. I know you've got paranormal one too.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I stick into YouTube for most of it. I do share stuff out on my Facebook, but I find it's very difficult to juggle all the balls, because I started off just doing the NLP one. I had Paul Goddard, which was random stuff, and I put my NLP things on there. Then I did another channel, Paul Goddard NLP and Hypnotherapy, which was that based. I thought, I'm doing loads of regressions, and I wasn't putting the past life regressions so much on there, because it's one of those things that people either love it, or you do get some people who really do hate it. I mean, I have had people in the comments saying there's a little place in hell waiting for me because I do the past lives and reincarnation thing. So I created that separately because I realized that some people personal development might not be interested in that. And then for a while I was doing on Exploring the Afterlife Chit Chat Tuesday, but I became so busy, and then I had the mad idea of starting another channel. The one I'm throwing most of my work into is the past life regressions with Paul Goddard. I'm not forgetting the other, but I think you have to try and really focus on one because you've got balls in the air.
So, just out of curiosity on this one with the past life regression, have you come across a lot of people that have been skeptical and just open, or is it more just cut and dry, like I want to do it or I don't?
I think there is, because people have paid me for the experience. There's a degree of open-mindedness, although I've had complete skeptics that are interested in experiencing something. A lot of the skeptical people believe their experiences are through something called cryptomnesia, which is hidden memories. So that is why, again, during my regressions, I don't say what you're what you experience here, you haven't read in a book, you haven't seen on TV, you haven't been told at school. I've heard people say that at the beginning of the regression sessions, but if I was to tell you not to think of a dog right now, think of anything but the dog, don't think of its ears, its wagging tail. Just think of anything about from a dog, you're going to start
I actually started thinking about a horse when you said that. That's really
okay. Well, there's always the exception, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm a bit
odd. But so I make sure I don't implant that. But, I think that I have had some skeptical people that want to experience what it's like. I'd say I get skeptical people. I don't get naysayers or disbelievers, because if you're a naysayer or disbeliever, you wouldn't even go down the route anyway. But I find most people are quite open-minded, apart from with some press release, because there is one of the best cases is Steve that I've done is Steve Mulligan's past life regression, and he went back to being Sidney Sutcliffe in the First World War, where he was shot down in France, Cambrai. That was very compelling, a lot of information all matched up with that. And it got through into the North Wales Post, and then got through to some of the other, like the Mirror, the Daily Star covered it, and it even went. I've seen it in Arabic as well, which was really good. The cover, the story did kind of go, but you've got some really unpleasant comments on the newspaper which I was quite surprised about. I mean, I've got thick enough skin for it not to bother me, but I was just thinking, blimey, if I was more sensitive here, that could really upset me. Some of the stuff, like do these people even vote? Those sorts of things being said in it, it's like, how rude.
You're always going to have people like that. Look, I do the tarot readings with the psychic readings and stuff. Sabrina's the same. We all have them. They come into the chat, they totally disagree. Oh, there's no such thing as the life after death. There's no such thing, and they're the naysayers. But one day they'll die. One day, they'll go back, and then they'll be like, oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really bother me too much, but I was surprised how many skeptical people there are in that. And I kind of have been told there's only about 10 really unpleasant people in the world, but unfortunately get around quite a lot. So that's what I've heard.
So if there's one thing that people could walk away with in terms of what you do, past life regression, NLP, all of it, what would you want them to walk away with?
I think that sometimes it's okay just to stop and be in the moment. We live in a world that's so fast, and so that I'm going to add two things actually. So I think take a moment, because people tend to panic and just think and try and come with the answer. Oh, blimey, it's so many. But I'm going to focus it down to sort of one. I think we're sociable human beings, and I believe that even being connected on something like that, it's good to have that interaction. And I know this first name was Bruce, and I think it might be Alexander. I'm not entirely sure, but there was a experiment done. It was called Rat Park Experiment, and it was to show that initially how people become addictive, and they had rats. So they had a rat in a cage. One water bottle was just water. The other one was full of cocaine. The rat was by itself. and became addicted to the cocaine, hardly ever touched normal water, until eventually the rats would kill themselves from taking too much of the drug. But then this other psychologist thought, is it that, or is it to do with interaction? So he created another cage, much bigger, and in it was other rats. There were things to play with, tubes to go through, balls, little houses they could go in, other rats to interact with, and he called it Rat Park. And again, the same thing was put in the bottle of cocaine and the bottle of water. This time, the bottle of water was mostly drank, and the cocaine was hardly drunk at all. So it does happen with people as well. Like, you go back to the Vietnam War, and there were a lot of people, soldiers, that were taking drugs.
Yep.
And they thought that these soldiers would need to go through rehab when they got back to their lives. But when they got back to their loving families and their friends, 95% of them stopped.
Yep.
Because they had the interaction and the love with people around them. So I think we're sociable people, and I think, get some NLP tools if you're a little bit underconfident, and it's good to have those interactions with people. It doesn't mean you go out for mad, crazy nights. It can be just a simple enjoying a coffee or chat. But I think that it's important that we are a connected human race.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Is there anything else you wanted to ask, Chris?
I know. I think I'm fully asked everything that's going. We'll need to get you back sometime, Paul.
Please, yes, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been really, really good, and I would just like to say thank you so much for coming on, Paul. Sabrina, would you like to ask anything before we go?
No, that was it.
Last thing, Paul, do you want to give yourself some advertisement? Tell everybody right now.
Thank you. So if you want to see more of my past life regressions, you can go to YouTube, Past Life Regressions with Paul Goddard. You can contact me through my website, paulgoddardnlp.co.uk. So if you go to Paul Goddard NLP for Neurolinguistic Program.co.uk, you'll come across my website. On that is a contact me page, and you can contact me and ask questions if you want to find out if we're a good fit for past life regression or NLP and hypnotherapy. Send me an email. I'll respond.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, thank you for coming tonight. I hope you all have a fantastic Sunday tomorrow. Sabrina, do we have a guest for next week? Do we have that guest coming on next week?
Nope. We'll surprise everybody next week.
We'll do a surprise show.
I haven't confirmed, so I'm not going to say.
Confirm or say deny. Because we're the US government, we can't confirm or deny anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, everybody, Paul, we'll talk to you backstage if you want.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Have a fantastic night. See you all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I do that every time. Bye, guys.
Whispers crawl across the floor. Footsteps echo, then no more. Cold hands reach where light won't stay, calling you to come and play. Dancing shadows, spinning fast.